Hello, my name is Charlotta McNeil. I am an African American cisgender woman. I was born in 1975 during my parents' senior year of college at Fayetteville State University. While they finished college, I lived with my maternal grandmother in Elizabethtown, a small town not too far from Fayetteville. After graduation, my parents married and we relocated to an even smaller town in eastern North Carolina called Grifton. This was my father's hometown. In Grifton, we lived with my great-grandmother for a few years. With her, I picked up on a lot of her habits. My mom wasn't too happy about that, and she quickly enrolled me in daycare. A couple years later, my parents bought a house, and we moved to Kinston, where we settled and made our home. During the majority of my school years in Kinston, my classmates all looked just like me. However, that all changed in third grade when I scored really high on my end of grade test and was placed in the academically gifted program. For fourth and fifth grades, I was sent to a different school to participate in the AG program. The majority of the kids in the program were Caucasian. There were a few African American kids, but not many. When we moved on to middle school, I was reunited with my elementary school friends. You see, the Caucasian kids went to different schools than we did. Kinston was very much segregated. During my ninth grade year, I became entangled with a young man that my parents didn't approve of because he lived down the hill. See, most of the people that lived down the hill lived in projects or other low-income housing, and my parents didn't want me around those people. But those were my friends, and I felt bad because I wasn't allowed to visit them. Because of this entanglement, my parents eventually withdrew me from my current high school where all of my friends were and enrolled me in another high school in the county. There, I struggled to make real connections with friends and to find my place. I started to rebel by skipping school and hanging out late. I even quit playing softball, which was a passion of mine since I was 8. See, my father was a teacher by day and ran our family restaurant nights and weekends. My mom was an executive at the local hospital. My dad always seemed to be away from home. My mother worked long hours also. I remember one day visiting her job and one of her coworkers asked me what my plans were after college. I jokingly stated, I'm getting married and becoming a housewife. I knew this would upset my parents, but in the moment I didn't care. My mom was so angry. That evening, my parents told me how disappointed they were and that college was not optional for me. You see, education was and still is very important in my family. My grandparents, none of them went to college, but they made sure that all 9 of their children went to college and had that opportunity. Many of my aunts and uncles became educators. My paternal grandfather, who had only a 6th grade education, was the first African American elected to the school board in our county. After I graduated from high school, I attended East Carolina University, a predominantly white institution. And I know we have all heard the stories about how ECU is such a party school, and I did exactly that for the first 2 years. It took me 6 years to finish my undergrad degree. After graduation, I moved to Danville, Virginia for a year to work, but then returned to North Carolina and started working as a physical education teacher. In 2010, I went back to ECU to earn a master's degree in health education, and I've been teaching ever since. In 2015, I sold my house, quit my current teaching job, and relocated to Charlotte. This turned out to be the best decision I've ever made. In Charlotte, I met my husband. We married in 2022, and we have a son named Garrison. Thinking back over my life, I don't feel as if I've ever dealt with any blatant issues regarding racism. However, I do feel that I struggle or don't feel black enough. I feel like I missed out on getting a cultured experience due to my upbringing and by going to a PWI. I often listen to stories told about struggles of growing up black. I'm always empathetic, but I can't relate. By the grace of God, I've never had to struggle. In high school, I drove a BMW. When my parents were away from home, my brother and I could just grab their checkbook and order dinner without asking, and it was never a problem. Whatever we wanted, we always seemed to get. My parents divorced when I was 29 years old. My mom finally had enough of my dad's infidelity. My brother and I suspected, but never had the heart to say anything. I don't think my parents were ever truly happily married, and I often wonder if I wasn't born, would they had married or would they had gone their separate ways. This past school year, I was displaced to a low-income Title I school. In the beginning, I hated being there, but now I feel as if this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Those students need me, and I need them. Now is the time for me to fully immerse myself in their world and to learn firsthand from my students how I can best serve them.